Good evening. So we're going to start our third discussion and the discussion of performances that we saw, and there is interpretation, and second channel 2 is English, and then channel 3 is Russian if anyone needs it. So today we have a very peculiar day. We saw 3 performances. One of them was from Israel and 2 were by Estonian theaters, and let's just take them one by one. And in the morning we saw a performance which is called The Final Solution by Theater from Israel. And let's do it the same way, ladies first. And we actually also are expecting the feedback and the impressions of audience, foreign audience, because both performances from Estonia have not been shown for the first time. They're both from last year. Okay, let's start from Israel. Kadi, would you like to start? I was going to see that performance, and I was thinking, well, maybe like judging by the information that I had, it could be either very good or very shameful, and actually it turned out to be fabulous, because I was very afraid like how this shape or this form, like cabaret or stand-up, or how that was and the content, the form and the content, how they were going to cooperate. And in my opinion, that worked very, very well. And I was just amazed by how such a cruel topic was discussed with such means, and in this performance I thought that everything was on its place, and those songs and those documentary pieces that were very distinct from the atmosphere, of the general atmosphere of the performance. And what I think it was important, that this performance, despite its form, in fact, it actually made me feel compassion, and so that's what I have to say for now. Olga? Well, I wanted to start from the drama of the day, and from me it's very important to see what the day is like from the playwright of the day. So maybe there are some technical peculiarities how the performances are put within the program of the festival, and the 3 performances of today. First we saw the performance about our foolish present, and now about our foolish past, and now about foolish future. And on the day, well, actually we live in a very foolish present world, and it's good that we have such a great way to escape it as theater. If we talk about the morning performance, what I was thinking is how marvelous it is, how diverse the reflection of tragical events can be, and how different artists use these different reflection methods, how diverse those approaches are. And previous days we saw how different wars and different tragedies are being lived through by artists from other countries, and today we saw the point of view of Israel, and it actually was like a late night show. And but still this performance was not like an easy one, and despite the very simple means, and while we were laughing hard during the whole of this performance. But actually I only have one critique: the final depressor was too sweet, and that's all. I have to say that during 3 decades I've been to Israel for 3 times, and these tragic events that happened only 2 years ago there in Israel, and I also in Israel embassy in Tallinn, I saw a documentary, an hour-long documentary about what was happening, and the thing how Israel theater from Israel showed it to us, I'm just amazed. It's wonderful, and the people who can treat, laughing from tears and crying with laughter, these people cannot be defeated. And of course, this context of the theater, or the implying text of the theater and the context is, actually, as the actors emphasized, is like as if Israel is to be to blamed for something, as if people are to blame. Of course, there are demonstrations for the population of Gaza, supporting the population of Gaza, but the way the performance was made, it was just all of those jokes. They were not crossing the line. They were decent, and although they were bitter, some of the jokes were bitter. Some people, accept things very simple in a very simplified way, but still, the jokes were smart. And those jokes made me feel even more compassion to the things that were happening, and to the condition that these heroic people are living at the moment. In the land where there are only mountains and deserts. It's just a will, although it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I can only say how impressed I am, and thank you for finding such a beautiful and such specific form of art. All of my expectations have been met, and my belief in the future of your country has been strengthened. Are there any comments? Would you like to disagree with us? Would you like to show your opinion, express it? The floor is yours. Nobody wants to? You had a critique about coffee. But if we talk about the wholesomeness of the performance, that's the only critique that I had, because colleagues and I have already shared our opinions, because maybe that's the part where they had a strange menu. Those different killer dishes, maybe this is the place where you can shorten it, so that that would hurt even more. Maybe it was, somehow, being too happy about the choices or something. Yes, please. Please speak. Use the mic to speak.
Good evening. My name is Jakub. I'm from Poland. I'm former curator of the international program of VF25. And first of all, I would like to say I extremely thank you, Mert and Alan, because, this year the program, it's great. It's really great. I think it's the best edition of the Freedom Festival for me. Finally, without my performance, so maybe it's because of that. So, but to be serious, really, I think this idea to make this meeting point between East and West here in Narva. Today I do a watch to Russia, because now in Oval Office we have the meeting with Zelensky and Trump, and of course it's extremely powerful things. But to be honest, I don't want to speak today mostly about the Israel performance, but I had some doubts which I want to share, especially if no one wants to say anything. Because for me, this is a problematic thing. Like, we do something which I'm not exactly sure it's fair, because we announced this performance today as a secret performance. It's not officially in the program. I understand why it is not. But I think, in a way, it's. I think we should think a little bit more about what's really happened. Something happened, like, of course, as it was presented today, we had a horrible act of terror, October 7th. It's totally, in any way, unacceptable. But on the other hand, we had the genocide in Gaza, and it's happened as well. So for me, as an artist, as someone for whom freedom is really important, and the humanity, it's really important, it's a kind of lack of the perspective of, for example, Palestinian artist here. Also to sit here today with us, because I think then really theater, it's happened when we build a dialogue between each other. In your performance today, this evening, I asking myself all the time, like, what's the goal? Really promising opening for me. Really nice how you work also with my expectation in a critical way. Then I saw in the middle way your perspective, which I think it's extremely important. This scene in a house, it is your perspective for this situation for the past 2 years, which I accepted and see your perspective, but it's not whole picture. It's only perspective of the one side. On the other side, we have a people without home, without safe room, which died all the time. And I think this is important also to think about it. This should be also something that we have to, in a way, think about it. And yes, in a way, I think this is for me something which, when theater should really start to be, like, you know, to not only show the perspective, but to face it a situation when it's extremely hard for us to discuss. Because I think for all of us, the situation in Israel, in Palestine, in Gaza is extremely hard to discuss. But I had this feeling that, you know, if we were not ready to face it, those difficult two perspectives, then we are not ready to really deal with that. And theater is the really safety place. I strongly believe in that. To face it, those two perspectives. Today, I had the feelings we saw only one. Yeah, and I'm appreciated. It was for me important, and it was also important to me to all day had this feeling, this lack of the other perspective, which was here. So thank you for that, and that was something that I want to share. Thank you.
No.
But if we talk about perspective of the situation, then we have to talk about the politics of the current government of the Israel. But it's not the aim of our talk today. And we know that cultural that activists in Israel, they protested against what's happening in Gaza. But of course, that was not the aim of the performance today. It was, which lasted only for 1 hour, and not everything could be discussed during one performance. Is there anyone else who wants to continue?
Yeah.
We came here with many, many fears. We were an official part of the program, and at a certain stage we found out that we are not in the program anymore. And I think that this is something that is happening all the time, everywhere, not only to Israeli artists, to Jewish people everywhere, whether it is in the Edinburgh Festival or whether it is here. I will say, because I don't want to go deep into politics now, as it is not the place, and I believe that art is a bridge. But the word genocide is a big word, okay? And I think that it has not been stated yet. It has been stated in social media, but it has not been stated yet that there is a genocide. There are rules and terms for genocide, and the fact of I think that there have been war crimes. I realize the fear. I do not agree with my government. I wish that that we could be in a place where we feel strong enough, and that we also know that if terrorists are not on the other side commanding the country, governing the country, you know, it is so perplex. And I have Palestinian friends. For 3 years in the Edinburgh Festival. I was artistic director of a Shalom festival, and I brought Israeli and Palestinian and Druze and Sufim and Bedouin artists together. I think that this perspective is an unheard perspective at the moment, because if you just take the radical Islam, which have overtaken social media, it is 350 million. And if you take all the Jewish people in the world, which is including the Jewish people who already hate the Jewish people, because we have those as well, it's 16 million. So we are facing at the moment blood libels in a way that we have not seen since before the Holocaust. And this is a very, very slippery road to be on. When my friend who lives in London and has maybe visited Israel a few times, but her only crime is being born Jewish, is thrown out of the Edinburgh Festival, which was established by a Jewish musician after the Second World War who wanted to build a bridge for culture, and the first artists he invited were German artists because he said that art can do what politics cannot. Then I think that we are really in a bad state. And I know, you know, we came here, we didn't know what to expect. We felt fear even just from people looking in a certain way at us yesterday. We didn't know if someone's going to come after us or not. It was like, you know, our families are saying to us, be careful, beware, make sure there is security, make sure there is... this as a people, as a nation, as a religion, this is for Jews everywhere. Has nothing to do with the Israeli government. And this is the part that we wanted to enhance. Whilst we said a few times that yes, we wish, and the world also needs to wish, as the Palestinian people themselves, many of them wish, that terrorists do not be in charge of the land so that people can live for living and not live for killing and live for dying. And that's really what we came here to say. That is the message. It's a message of love and a message of hope. And yeah, there are wrongs being done everywhere. We ask ourselves every day where we're heading, where we're going. And I think, though, that this is a question that, as a human nation, I mean, I can live with anyone who believes I have a right to live, because I believe that everyone has a right to live. That's it.
Спасибо, я извиняюсь.
Thank you very much. I am sorry.
Забыли о том.
We forgot about the fact that yesterday everybody who takes the mic actually introduces themselves. So the first person who provided feedback was from Poland, and are you from Edinburgh? I'm sorry, I cannot see because I have the light shining right into my face. I'm sorry, I just didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you were from Israeli theater. Please, but if you take the mic to say anything, please also say where you're from. Any other feedback?
Of Tartu, and this is a follow-up to this very important remark by our Israeli friends and colleagues. You know, as a political scientist, I was always wondering why would leftist European intellectuals, when it comes to a conflict between a democratic state and those who systematically violate human rights, including women's rights, why would they still keep speaking in terms of genocide, which is a very vague concept, and we should be very careful with that, because it has a legal dimension and it has a metaphorical dimension. But when it comes to the show, which I attended and I enjoyed very much, I think it's not only about Israel. I was looking at this show from the viewpoint, for example, of Ukrainians who've been bombarded by Russians, and who hear sometimes voices that it's not all crystal clear. Maybe you are guilty of being bombarded. I'm looking at this show from the viewpoint of a more general trends of kind of death as a very important political concept, and this sense of irony regarding or toward death, I think it's really very much in line with many other cultural events that I have attended. I think there is much more than just about Israel in this show, and I really appreciate your political statement that I trying to decipher, and I think I succeeded in that. So thank you very much for this show.
Есть еще желающие?
Does anyone else want to say anything? I don't see anyone. So let's move on. I am very thankful for the fact that although there have been very many difficulties, I'm thankful for you that you were able to come to the festival and participate. And then we had 2 performances from Estonia. And the first one is called Notebook, and then this is by Vanemuine Theatre from Tartu. This is one of the oldest professional theatres in Estonia, and all of the participants are actors. This performance was done in December of last year, and Estonian audience accepted it, was amazed, and accepted it with a lot of inspiration. It was nominated as one of the top 5 performances of the Estonian theatre, and the panel of the drama theatre provided it with actors as the special award for their masterful and harmonious acting, and this performance was praised a lot. So it would be interesting to see your feedback, how you understood the performance. And I had a small fear. I was sitting in the first row and I couldn't see the subtitles very well because the subtitles were very small, and I don't know if everyone could follow the text or not, but because Olga is sitting here, maybe Olga would be the first. The text is quite famous, and the director's solution was quite straightforward, and it was I could read the subtitles. Well, first of all, on the whole, about Estonian theatre during this festival, we have seen 3 performances from Estonia, and I understood
Актерскую школу.
that I understand. I love the school of acting in Estonia, because those acting in all of the performances is brilliant, is faultless. What I think of the Notebook, I understand why critics awarded this performance is classic, traditional theatre. With the solutions, with the approaches that are classic, so this is beautiful, this is visual, and this is done professionally. And if we think about acting and directing and scenography, and I think I don't know what we can talk about here, because on the whole, for the festival program, the performance is too traditional, and here talking about problematics, or it doesn't make sense. Yes, it's good. Yes, it's wonderful. Yes, it's beautiful. It's a well done theater, a well made theater. But in addition to, I think it's beautiful, but on the other hand, it's very painful. I think it's the most horrifying and painful story on Estonian stage at the moment. Yes, I understand that the context of today is making its impact, but it's actually quite famous text, but for ordinary spectator it is not. But what's new is it offering? Who would like to? Anyone from the audience, from guests, would you like to provide your feedback about this performance? If we talk about traditional solutions, yes, of course, if we talk about all the 3 festivals, well, it was the first choice, which is like of the very strong performance, which is a drama performance from the drama theaters in Estonia, which actually made it to the festival. We haven't had anything like that before. Yes, please. I am afraid to be slightly critical. I'm afraid to disagree, but it seemed to me that it was actually very innovative, more than critical. Could you also talk about where you're from? I have already made my introduction, Andrei Makarochev from the University of Tartu. Yes, I'm still the same person I was just a while ago. Watching this performance through the prism of like our political categories that are in the air all the time, I see that it systematically deconstructs like all of them, the family, identity, nation, and this deconstruction actually is happening through the body, which is the key component of the performance, but it seemed to me that it's much less conservative, but it has quite a lot of postmodern irony on the key political ideas. Maybe it's just my opinion. Is it good or bad in your opinion? How do you evaluate it? Well, I don't think such categories is good or bad. Okay, any other comments? I wanted to just make a small comment what concerns the previous speaker and your comment. My name is Agnira Ismailova. I'm a playwright, and if we talk about the body and the body as an element, so I think the performance weightlessness was much more body oriented, where women did not take any clothes off, but they wore a lot of clothes, but the way it was shown, it was demonstrated, was much more it was much more honest. And this element of body in Central Asia, we could read it and understand it in a much stronger way. So I think for me, in this Estonian performance which we're talking about, I didn't understand why, for example, there were scenes with a naked body. Well, actually, they were just washing themselves in the bathroom. In order just to wash yourself in the bathroom, in the bath. Well, I think, yeah, maybe it's just not my cup of tea or my theater. My name is Vladimir. I am the art manager from Ukraine, and I'm not going to criticize anything, because I'm not a theater critic. That's the job of the critics to make any critical comments, because they need to prepare for that, and then you cannot just jump into any critical conclusions. You need to see the performance for several days, and then you need to kind of have time to digest it. I don't know the director who. Where is he from? Yes, this is a young Estonian director. Yes. He has been a director for about 10 years. I want to congratulate him because this is a wonderful director. You can be proud of such a director, because despite all of the gloominess of like outside gloominess of this performance, it's kind of gloomy. I was looking for this word. This performance there's a lot of cleanliness in this performance and everything. There is nothing that is extra, despite all of this, all of the things that occupy this this scenes. Everything works, and for me, this is a performance where I saw so many metaphors, so many symbols. And the way that the director does it and the way the actors do that, I congratulate this team. And now I will do everything that I heard a lot about Tartu Theatre, so that I will make efforts to get acquainted with the team, with their repertoire. We cannot say whether this theater has the right to exist, whether it's traditional or non-traditional. For me, if a performance makes me emotional, this is already a great performance. And actually, it makes me feel emotional. I want to watch that. It doesn't matter whether we took their clothes off. Maybe they could leave their clothes on, but it didn't shock anyone. At one point in time, I watched a Bulgarian performance about a man in a bath, and there was just a bath on the stage. It was a very difficult performance. It was a brother and the Siamese twins, brother and sister, who were both naked in bath. The actors were husband and wife. We did not see the bottom parts of their bodies because they sat in the bath in darkness, and all the time I saw just a woman's bosom, but it was so beautiful and it didn't shock me. So I don't think that something should be hidden. They actually did it very in modest way today. So I really liked the performance. I would like to congratulate the team. I'm very happy that I saw that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I agree with you 100%. There is just one critical comment. First of all, in Estonia, the conditions of the stage were different. I didn't say that anyone has been lost, and it was summer, and it was the first time they played it in this season, so it has been quite a lot of time between the two times they played the performance. Is there anyone else who wants to comment on it? Yes, please. Alexander Bronstein, Cyprus International Festival. I speak Russian because I'm from St. Petersburg, but I am studying different languages, and here I actually realized that I can speak Russian here. I would like, if you excuse me, I would still like to say a few words. I just needed some time. I would like to say a couple words about Israeli team. I would like to say just to say how heroic it is of these people, because when they say that the whole family is worried for them, well, actually, this is some kind of degree of tension that they could not help bring into the stage. But again, this simpleness and this level of the love for life that they demonstrated, this is, in my opinion, this needs just this requires a round of applause. If you allow me, I will start this round of applause if you allow me. And I studied in the USA, and Mark Netzlaff was my professor, and he studied Shakespeare studies, and we studied when we started this merchant from play, and then there is this scene when there was a pound of meat, and how Shelik was reacting to that, and how he was excusing himself, and how he was leaving, And Mark's most famous film based on that was, and this episode was how he was smiling. And I think the smile to the accuser is what I liked in Israeli performance today, because this is the only possible reaction, in my opinion, to accusation, to endless accusation. If we speak about performance of the Estonian team, I think that it seemed to me that it was done in a very talented way, and it's like the world of a war that cannot be understood, the state that can be understood, and it's like a pre or post apocalypse, and this is all like there is nothing, and there is no capitalism, and nobody in fact can really buy anything or can really sell anything. So everything is on basic ideas or basic notions. So this idea of these two Siamese twins reminded me, if you know this performance by Timofey Kulябin, Three Sisters, which was based on the language of
вот этих двух молодых ребят, которые выучили текст.
Sign language, and those actors actually learned this sign language for 2 years before they could perform. And when you just dedicate so much time and so much effort to your theater work, it actually requires so much. I respect so much effort and so much dedicated. I think that this performance actually is worth of a big stage, and so I thought that. So I think that this performance was very worth of a festival program. I felt that that was a good school of acting, and these were good roles and good acting. I didn't understand the ending. Maybe I need to read the play. Maybe it's actually very famous, and this intention of it was not made yesterday. Sometimes you just don't read the things that have been famous for quite a while, but this for me it was new material. I haven't read it, I haven't seen it, and I didn't understand this distinction of brothers, division of brothers. One of them crosses the border, the other one stays. So it's like to be continued, as if there was supposed to be a part 2 that tells the stories further. I enjoyed this performance until that moment. Maybe I don't know if we can praise the playwright, because it wasn't written by the director, but I enjoyed the performance, and it reminded me of Jan Potocki and something like that, something like innovative story, which I could not stop enjoying. I'm sorry, I will just finish talking, and thank you. I was pleasantly surprised, and thank you for the program, and thank you for the director. Thank you. You also reminded me this critique that I had in relation to this performance. I know that actors went home, but I think that the director and playwright is here. Well, I think that was also what I wanted to mention, because Kadi and myself saw this for the second time, and after the first time we saw the performance, I had the same problem, the same issue with the ending, like why suddenly they got divided, and why exactly this boy stepped over the body of the father and went over the border, and so yes, I understand. And then Kadi and myself, we both remembered that on Tartu stage it was either deeper or it was longer, so this ending wasn't so sudden and so short, because like during the 30 seconds. So did you see any difference between what you play in Narva, what you play in Tartu, and what you played here? This is the question to the director. But you saw today's performance and performance in Tartu. What about, were the endings the same or different, or you don't remember? Well, it's the first question that I had, and it's the only critical feedback that I had, that the ending wasn't thought through by the director. I would also like to add, but this is Hungarian novel, but this playwright still, the play was written by the director himself.
Irina, I'm from Ukraine. I'm a playwright. And before becoming a playwright, I have been a translator from French to Ukrainian. And I have like over 20 books published in my translation. And one of the books that I translated was this book, from French to Ukrainian. And I want to say that it must have been a huge challenge to stage this text, because it looks like something very simple, because you mentioned Jan Potocki, and Jan Potocki was from Poland, but his novel manuscript found in Saragossa was written in French. And Agota Christoph was from Hungary, but she moved to Switzerland. She learned French, and this book was written in French. So in both cases, these authors were writing not in their mother tongue. And she was writing in a foreign language, and it contributed to her strategy, because she was writing with very simple, very short sentences. It was visible in the text, in the subtitles, because basically it was like subject, predicate, noun, verb. Like we entered the room. There was a table. Under the table there was a dead body. The body didn't move. It was a girl we knew, and so on. And that's why it created a very powerful emotional effect. It was more powerful than, for example, writing like, oh my God, we were so scared, we felt so lonely, it was so terrible, it was so shocking. So they don't mention emotions. They simply describe the facts, and that's why it's very complicated, because on the surface it looks like something very simple, but it's very complicated to convey this feeling of fear, of loneliness, of shock, and so on, to convey it on stage. And I think it was a very difficult task, and I think it was an amazing work to create this theater play, to turn this novel into a theater play. And second, this book was the first part of a trilogy. It consists of 3 very short novels about the same characters, these brothers. It's called like Trilogy of Twins, Twin Trilogy, of brothers, Klaus and Lucas, and there are 2 more books. And that's why it was, it might have felt like the beginning of a new story, because actually, yes, it's the end of the first part, but there are 2 more parts with more twists. But to me, it didn't feel like something was not accomplished, because the situation itself, and I think it resonates with the ongoing wars, the war didn't end. In terms of the story, the war ended. So they are trying to cross the border years after the war ended, but the situation is still very insecure, and that's why these conflicts are not solved. And I think it's very much in tune with what we are experiencing now, and this kind of open ending is something we are experiencing now with the ongoing wars. That was my comment.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Can I say about the text? Maybe, Irina, you can correct me. If I remember correctly, Agota Christoph named the chapters with exercises, because twins, they made their exercises more and more complicated. They learn to tolerate pain, they learn to become cruel, they learned to kill people.
The question was maybe the final act of separating was again some exercise, because during the story they are inventing new and new challenges for themselves, and the final challenge is to separate. And to this I can answer that yes and no. And if yes, because in this first part the ending is they are separated, and it can be a challenge. But if we are reading the second part, and especially the third part, it turns out that this first part with them living in this town never happened, because they were separated because of the war at the very beginning of the war. And during the next 2 books, they are kind of looking for each other and trying to reconnect. And this story of them going through all these obstacles and challenges in all these difficult circumstances and this horrible life, it was actually a dream of being together, because what happened to them in reality was much worse. And they were dreaming of living in this village together, but it didn't happen. Everything we saw, it didn't happen. It was a dream, it was a book one of them was writing, dreaming that he was with his brother, while in reality he wasn't.
Но зритель нормальный, обычный.
But actually, just the ordinary person, ordinary spectator doesn't understand. He wants to just understand the ending. Does anyone else want to add anything about this performance? I don't see anyone. So let's move to the third performance of the day. Say hi to Abda. And the director and author is the young Belarusian, is Russian Belarus, the person, Mikita, who left Belarus and now he lives in Poland. I'm not a neutral person because after the first night I wrote my evaluation, and which was not very good. I watched it the second time just to make sure if I was right or I wasn't. So I made sure that I was correct with my evaluation. And so on the one hand, the main idea that the fairness will come even 45 years afterwards. But to be specific, I had three most critical pieces of feedback. I didn't understand author's attitude to these Fiji hams, to these Islamic sisters. Was it more humanistic to the other party, or they were more raffinated form of more sadistic? And the second form, what is the conclusion that we have to make after we watch the performance? Well, actually, it's an honor to think if Muslim revolution in Europe starts with the Narva city, what do we have to do? Do we need to just give guns to the people of Narva, or what do we need to do? Or and then, of course, there are just everyday basic questions: how they could catch that person after 40 years and bring him here. And the third is that I don't really understand why they have Shakespeare's pieces within the play. I understand that humane state of sisters, Muslims, gives the prisoners a chance to spend time in the drama society, where they have to study the history of Europe, to understand that those values were developed for 2,000 years. So, but the artistic I didn't understand the artistic idea why this scene was included. It didn't seem appropriate there, but I think there are many people who are smarter than myself, and maybe they can explain this to me. I heard that during a small intermission, I heard that this performance was staged in Poland, and it was staged there not by the author but a different director, and there the scene with Shakespeare was not present in the performance. Olga, please.
Kadi.
Kadi? Well, Jaak and myself were talking because we watched two Estonian performances. It was very interesting to know your opinion, because as Jaak told about the previous performance, then this one was actually one of the best performances. Estonian critics saw that as the best performance of the season. Up to it's quite a different performance. Estonian critics were quite mild and supportive. They were quite strict with this performance. And first of all, it is because of the material, because Olga, as you mentioned, actors play well. And for me, this material, this play, I think it's just a mix of everything, from A to Z, all of the different topics, all of the different points of view, all of the different formats, all of the different means of expression. And if to put it shortly, I would just quote Chekhov, so that Ulbek wrote it better. Just speaking about actors and acting, I think these three actors, these are famous good Estonian actors, and they did play well. The only thing that they lacked was material. Well, first of all, I agree that it was a mix, but I cannot say that this is its disadvantage, because this is what modern theater can look like. And I don't say that this is a disadvantage. Yes, it's hypertext. This is a modern approach. And I think it's strange to say that the author cannot have such an attitude to look at the reality in this way and think about the reality in this way. And when we have our annual theater of contemporary playwriting in Almaty, directors quite often say, especially directors from traditional state theaters, they say about modern plays that they cannot be staged. Nobody will ever stage that. And I think it's great that in this performance, for us, for everybody, we had the possibility how an author stages their own quite strange text. And of course, it would be interesting to see this version in Polish, where there was a different director, and we already discussed it, that in the performance there is the duality, that Mikita is there as a director and as an author, and these are two different personalities in this work. And of course the story, maybe it's again my own fantasies and associations, but the story that you are talking about with putting place in Shakespeare there into the performance, and this theater of inclusion or imprisonment, I thought that it was actually talking about Zhenya Berkovich destiny, who first was allowed to stage a performance while in imprisonment, but maybe it's just my idea, but this is contemporary playwriting, and this is something that we just have to live with. But I want to disagree with you, because contemporary playwriting cannot be something that we can use it as an excuse, because contemporary playwriting was something that we saw on the first day. It was about the Baltiets factory that everybody watched with pleasure. Does anyone want to add anything, disagree with us, make a comment?
Kaunissaar, dramaturg of Südalinna Teater, formerly Russian Theatre in Tallinn, Estonia. About that show, what I found interesting looking at it was that, during the day, I talked with somebody who said that this person had seen it and that this was really bad. So I went with low expectations, which always help. And what I found really interesting is that I think this show benefited a lot from a very mixed audience. And I think when the show plays to all Estonian audience, it is one thing, and when it plays to a mixed audience of locals from Narva, locals from like guests from all over, from like Central Asia and various places, then there is some sort of, I would say, physics of the audience, that if a considerable part of the audience has a wider just like track record of experiences, then it actually somehow as a virus spreads as a kind of magic. Spreads and influences also the way the show is seen by other people. And for me, this show was an example of this. So I think the show gained a lot from having a very mixed audience.
Anyone else who wants to comment?
Magda Specht. I'm a director from Poland, and and I want to really appreciate this show because I know all the details about the humanitarian crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border in the 2020, and when it all started, we all, people who make art, wanted to go and help there, and the government forbid people from helping the migrants. And that moment for all of us was like, we felt that we are losing our humanity because we are banned from helping others. It was winter, people were coming, they were left alone in the Polish forest, they were drowning in the river. And I think the very, very important context of this performance is that this is inspired by the situation when Mikita was searching through the things left by the real person on the border. And I think that the message that comes from this show is the message about justice, and that one day the politics of the European Union, which thinks about itself as something like humanitarian and ethical, that once the politics towards migrants will be perceived very cruel and as a crime, because we know that there are some people who are responsible for that and that they are guilty, and I really admire the imagination of the author who can put this in the far future. It reminds me of the book by Michel Houellebecq, Soumission, where we observed the future of the Europe. But I also really like this twist of femme jihad as a tool to bring justice towards those who died when they tried to reach Europe. And it is not only on the Polish-Belarusian border, but it's also on the sea. So this is the topic which we rarely see in the arts and especially in the theater. And I think it's very important to be discussed, and it should be shown to the migrant communities, I guess. So, thank you.
Спасибо, поскольку я хочу одно замечание еще, поскольку
Wanted to make a comment. As you are from Poland, I would like to emphasize the interesting fact that right on this week, when this performance was the first night of the performance was played in Estonia, there was a Polish film was shown, The Green Border, which the Polish Minister of Justice at the time called Stalinist and compared to the propaganda of Nazi Germany. I think the difference between that film and this performance, that film was very honest and was very touching, and that was the same topic. Maybe you know this film, but many people didn't see the film. I would also like to add that I think that I really liked that in this performance, at least for me, there was no caricature. There was no mocking, no caricature at the way that accusers or accused were portrayed, because it was what was really well played were the situations of how people were remembering their arguments after so many years. And this was that was the balance. For me, it was like a very finely played. It was very good acting, and both. It was a very good approach from the point of the director. Thank you very much.
Я хочу сказать про...
I would like to say about the author. who of this play, and actually last year he won the award. He won the main international award in the competition Aurora in Poland, where the chair of the panel was Mark Riven, who awarded this play. I was also a member of the panel, and they really liked the play, and they couldn't believe how such a young person could combine the documentary material with fiction, autofiction, and how this political text, which it was very important what we saw in the performance, that there are real documentary materials, that the author, he really went to that forest where the border was put and borderline was put, where nobody could go. He was searched for by the police. He found those, and what we see in the video, he found real things of people who were trying to cross the Belarus-Poland border, who were trying to get to Europe. And he found this name and family name, they are real. He found pieces of a person's passport. We don't know if that person is alive or not. And he actually we don't know if that person managed to escape to Europe or was he buried in those swamps. Those pictures, those photos of that cemetery. This is the cemetery of migrants that escaped from the war and that died on the Poland-Belarus border. And Mikita Ilinchik, who is Belarus and who lives in Poland, has lived in Poland for several years. And he's now doing his career in Poland. And he is less than 30 years old. He has been working with material of migrants from Eastern Europe, from Belarus, and refugees from Arab countries, refugees from Belarus. And this is a very important topic. And this text is well adaptable to different countries. That's why in Poland there is the story of a Polish border guard on the Poland-Belarus border. But still, this woman from Belarus. He also found her documents, and there's in The Hague, he found her documents, he found her Instagram, and so on. And so these are all documentary materials, and we actually are looking at a possible life of a person, but we don't know if the person is alive or dead. And the play is also like we can read it and we can imagine this performance, because the play Mikita writes in the way that there is a lot of electronic material, there are different links, there are different videos and so on. So in Polish performance, then here also there is also the topic that Magda mentioned, that how the topic of resistance, how we are resistant to what our government is doing, that they are not letting the people in, that we are not allowed not allowing people to enter to Europe. So this Agnieszka Holland made a film about it, and of course you're talking about our horrible Minister of Culture, that he's already in the past and nobody wants to remember him and nobody wants to remember it. And of course nationalists, they are against this performance in Warsaw, which was staged in one big drama theater in the center of Warsaw, and how Polish soldiers and Polish bodyguard could be shown in the performance in that way. But this is a very important voice, and we now have books about it, and we have some fiction, and we have documentaries about this. This is a very important topic, and I guess this is also important for this. And I guess this is why the festival panel was so that I mentioned at the beginning was so thrilled by it. Thank you very much. You just said what I saw in the film, Green Border. What about the documentary material of today's performance? I would like to emphasize that there was nothing happened like this in Narva, and I hope that 20 kilometers in Narva there is Viper, there is no concentration camp, and it will never be there.
Give me a mic, but I think I also should say 2 words. Sorry, I was late because we have wonderful talk in toilet. Thank you for that, sorry. But yeah, just to add 2 things, like first, which I think no one really mentioned because this text was staged also in Warsaw. The premiere was in May. And because of that, Mikita get thousands of death threats. Some of the politicians from the right-wing party already told that he will be deported and kicked out from Poland because so we know. So I think you have to have a huge courage to also see in this really tense political situation which we have now, because also I agreed with Agnieszka, the topic of the migrants, refugees, it's now the #1 topic in Europe. Maybe not in Estonia.
Пока в Эстонии нет этого вопроса.
Not yet in Estonia. Да, еще нет, пока нет. И я согласен с этим. Но в общем...
I want to also add that this was something for me extremely important when I also curate this text, when the Mikita wrote it, like to have this courage to see in this really difficult political time, when we have this enemy in Russia, when we are all of us really afraid of this enemy, to see that even if it's a provocation, this pushing migrants through the Polish-Lithuanian border, see that those people died there. And this is the major point, that the country which is a part of European Union and could be Estonia and the rest of the countries, in the end, people could die there. And I think this is the role of artists, to see this small history, this really individual point of view the situation, and really try to build a performance, a stories which will really support it. So I think from this position, from the courage of Mikita, who is, as I said, Belarusian migrant, in any time could be sent back to Belarus and then he will go to prison. To have the courage to write this kind of the text in European Union, it's huge, and it's extremely important. And I think this, I miss those kind of the stories. To be honest, and the last things I want to add, I think also theater, also art became, for the last years, in my perspective, too simple. And this is the problem. We see the really strong conflicts, which are all around us, but the reality, it's so much more complicated, which we also speak in the toilet. Thank you so much.
Там кто-то хотел выступать еще.
Somebody else wanted to say something.
Lena Twarkowska, I'm also from Poland, and I want to support my colleague in supporting Mikita, and also support Mikita because it's also my friend. And first of all, it's a brilliant text. Like really, it won one of the our like very important award, as Agnieszka already said. It's not conservative, not traditional text, but maybe this is the only way to touch the topic. Because what you're saying about Agnieszka Holland, the green border, it's what is happening now, and Mikit tried to say us what could happen. What could happen? Yeah, it's not happening in Estonia, maybe, not yet. But it's already happening in Poland. It could happen to Estonia. It could happen to all of us. So in that way, it's kind of very important topic. And devaluating the topic because the text is not conservative and not traditional and you don't understand this, this is not a way to discuss even.
Так, здесь, там хотят люди выступать.
There are some people who want to give their comments as well.
My name is Irina. I'm from Kiev, and I want to go back to your phrase at the beginning of discussion of this text that we don't really understand the attitude of the author to all these topics he's working with, like femme jihad and what kind of future is better and how it should be and what is his personal attitude. And I think that maybe I'm going to say something obvious. This reality is very complex. It's an ongoing process. It's happening right now. And the great value of this text that it's very open to interpretation. And now I want to step back to the theater play about the twin brothers. And it's about the Second World War. And what is the attitude of Agatha Christie? Like it's a Second World War. Which side is she supporting? She is for Germans, or she is for Soviet Union, or she is for communist? And who in fact is the evil in this play? Who is the antagonist? Like the grandmother? Like maybe, but maybe she's kind of trying to help these kids the way she can, or the mother, or the soldiers, or who is the bad guy in this text? And somehow no one asked this question, and who is the antagonist, and who the author is supporting. And my version, why we didn't ask this question, because first, this war ended, it was in the past, and second, this author died, and we cannot ask her position. But regarding this text of Mikita Ilinchik, first, he's describing the ongoing process and maybe even the future. It's one of the versions of future which can or cannot happen. And second, as an author who is writing, as an artist who is living and creating his works now, somehow very often we feel entitled to ask these kind of questions, like, what is your position? What is your personal attitude? Who is the bad guy? How should it be? What do you suggest? And so on. But I want to say that we as artists who are alive now, we are in extremely vulnerable position. And sometimes, as it has been mentioned already, it takes a huge courage to start talking about some topics. And we simply cannot demand an open statement, an open position in the artistic text. But I think it's important to mention that it's very symptomatic, that very often we expect these direct answers and direct positions expressed in the works of art, and I think it's something symptomatic for our complex reality. Thank you.
Давно там люди ждут микрофона. Даем сюда, в эту часть тоже публику.
Mart, there are people waiting for mic for quite a long time. Shall we give them the mic, please? You were the first. Okay, let's give the mic there. Thank you very much. My name is Mark. I'm a director from Kazakhstan, and I actually really like the performance. Say hi to Abda. And actually, what you find here, like something that are disadvantages, I think these are its strengths, because for me, this the complicatedness of the performance, the world here is quite complicated. I think if we talk about a very plain drama with bad guys and good guys, it's not really possible here. And I think the text, as Mikita's texts, they actually really mirror the feelings that my generation have at the moment, and actually this what that we don't have this division who are good and who are bad, what is wrong and what is right. I think this is the big advantage of this text and this performance, because it leaves a lot of ethic dilemma or ethic crisis that is shown to us, and for me that was one of the most interesting theatrical experiences lately. Actually, if we talk about like political theater, finally I see the performance which doesn't just show an important problem, but makes the audience to get involved more than just emotionally, to think about all of those either fictional or non-fictional characters. How could that be done? Which crisis probably our actions at the moment could lead to, and our ideas could lead to, and which crisis cannot be avoided. And I really liked the actors acting, especially the person who played Thomas, the former bodyguard. For me, that was like really the character which was on the other hand, he was someone very likable or unlikable, but then he was very human to a certain extent at certain moments. For me, it was very interesting because I worked with the Mikita's text. I know him very well. I staged a performance based on his text, and it was interesting for me to see the way he works with his own text, because they are very multidisciplinary, very diverse. And maybe this is the direction where we should go now, because we already, we have already passed just simple dialogues as humans. And now I'm standing here. I'm receiving a message, and somebody calls me, and there's an email I'm receiving. I'm still thinking about something else. We're now in a multimodal way of communication, and actually Mikita's texts, I think they are unique in this way in the world, in the way that are offering us this complexity of communication between people, and this performance has it. And for me, it was very interesting in the way how Nikita was going to solve all those multimodal, multidisciplinary moments. But then he thought, okay, the actor will say something, and then scanning will be complete. And for me, as a young person who does not have many connections in Europe, but for me it was very similar to the theater that I want to see, very theater to the theater that I want to do, and the theater that makes me emotional. Good evening, my name is Nikita. I'm from Kohtla-Järve, and I once played in school theater community. That's why I'm going to give you my expert opinion. I heard some different critical feedback. First of all, how he treats this oxymoron, and I think Mikita, the author, both as Professor Makarychev doesn't think in such categories as good and bad. I think he approaches it in an analytical way, and I think he teaches us a few lessons that are very good. And the first lesson is that nothing is eternal. Rome collapsed, and now we think about liberal democratic societies, as Fukuyama said, as the end of the history, and that's going to be eternal. But the author of this play shows us the alternative story alternative reality that actually tells us that you don't need to perceive, you don't take things for granted, that you actually need to value the society we live in. And you don't need to haste, to be in a rush to take the gun when crowds of migrants are going to arrive here, because in some parallel reality we might become these migrants ourselves, so we might need help ourselves. And the second important lesson, I think, that cruelty only leads to cruelty. We saw in this performance how this page turns from the European cruelty to migrants, creates this wave of protests and violence, and Europe is occupied by brothers Muslims, and in order to bring the historical balance and fairness, they start to it brings to cruelty, and this cruelty brings fair jihad to power. And I think the main lessons, if I just want to conclude the whole of my expert opinion, is that don't take it for granted, and do not rush to grab a gun. Thank you, but my critical comment was it if this women's jihad is worse than men's jihad? Is there anything else anyone wants to add? No? Well, what the time is, then we actually have spent quite an interesting day with you, and we received lessons about very cruel things, and about the how those events that happens about Poland, Belarus, Russia Belarus, Poland border can be talked about. Thank you very much.